Good morning. In today's video, I'll discuss what next after Operation Sindoor. So the first question is, did this operation deter Pakistan? And the answer is no. Because it is not about Pakistan, it is about Pakistan and China combined, and they were not deterred. If anything, this combination with Pakistan military in the lead and the People's Liberation Army supporting it to the hilt without showing its hand will take the things to the next level, which is preparing for a hot war with India. But I'll come to this in a while. The second important question is, did Operation Sindoor accomplish its objective? The answer once again is yes. Because the Indian Air Force for the second time was used on non-military targets. So when you use the Air Force on non-military target, it is not to showcase your military power. It had some other objective which most of the Indians understand. I don't have to go over it here. And in the process of using the Indian Air Force on non-military targets, India ended up showing the limitations of the Indian Air Force to the enemy. As I said, this happened for the second time. The first time it happened was in Balakot in 2019. The air attacks at that time, which the Indian Air Force did under Operation Bandar. We remember that on the next day, the Pakistan Air Force responded with their own operation called Operation Swift Retort against Indian military targets. And what was very clear on the second day is that Pakistan Air Force had good electronic warfare capabilities. Having learned that, Pakistan Air Force decided to build on that. And therefore in August 2020, with help from the People's Liberation Army, under the Pakistan Air Force, the Center for Artificial Intelligence and Computing was set up, whose primary project was cognitive electronic warfare, which is artificial intelligence and electronic warfare, which takes electronic warfare to an entirely different level. Similarly, in Operation Sindoor, we saw the two air forces, they battled on the night of 6th-7th May. Now here once again, electronic warfare for the Pakistan Air Force, it was not a force multiplier, but it was central to their campaign that they called a new art of war, multi-domain operations. When you put electronic warfare at the center of your campaign, it becomes very obvious that what the Pakistan Air Force is hoping to achieve against the Indian Air Force is electromagnetic dominance by radar technology. It's a big thing. And this is something that they have taken out. It's straight away taken out from the PLA playbook, where the war fighting is what they call a systems destruction warfare, which again means that electromagnetic spectrum is the key how to achieve superiority, if not dominance, against a peer competitor in the electromagnetic spectrum, because this is where the campaign will be won or the campaign will be lost. So this is what the Pakistan Air Force showcased. And this is extremely unfortunate for India, because in the next war between India and Pakistan, it is the two air forces which will lead the campaign and determine the war outcome and the limitations. And there are plenty of limitations that even a person like me could see of the Indian Air Force, which for obvious reasons I don't want to spell out here. Now, I'll continue with this narrative. Let me just shift gear a bit to come to another important point, which is that Prime Minister Modi declared suddenly that Operation Sindoor has paused. It has not ended. And we know the reports came that the Indian Army has reached out to their counterpart saying that, look, there is a need to reduce the alert levels, so let's agree to certain confidence building measures. I don't know if the other sides has agreed, but what is clear is that there is no meaning in bringing the alert levels down. It means nothing. What is required is, if at all, is a formal ceasefire between India and Pakistan, where both sides understand and they agree to and abide by certain rules mutually agreed. This will not happen, a formal ceasefire, for obvious reasons. I'll just give out the reasons. On the Indian side, there are two reasons why India will not agree to this. One is that we saw in the 4-day campaign, Prime Minister Modi's followers, they were hugely disappointed because they were hoping that under the Prime Minister, India would perhaps devastate Pakistan, break it into a couple of pieces, and that didn't happen. So they are disappointed. But the hope still remains that the operation is only paused. It may be restarted at some stage by Prime Minister Modi. And the second reason is that the Indian military, in the Indian military media presentation, it was said that Indian side cannot talk of the losses or what happened on the 6th, 7th night air battle because the operation was still going on. So if this operation was to end, then there would be pressure on the Indian side to talk about what happened to the Indian Air Force, how did it fare on the night of 6th, 7th May, which obviously they don't want to talk. Now on the Pakistan side, in my assessment, they would only agree to a formal ceasefire if it is linked to meaningful bilateral talks on Kashmir resolution, something that India will not accept or agree to. So what we are left with is a new normal, as Prime Minister Modi said. A new normal is that if this pause was to be lifted, then once again we would see drones, we would see rockets, we would see artillery, we would see missiles of both sides all along the border in action. Everything will start, which I think in any case is a very dangerous situation. And why it is dangerous is because of this new normal. The threshold of hot war has come down drastically. That means the gap between the new normal and a hot war has become very short. This is what makes it dangerous. Now, before I go further on this, one point needs to be clarified. The Indian media, they were doing a lot of embarrassing things were being said in the Indian media, especially the television channels. But one of the remarks repeatedly made was that the Pakistan side used Shaheen missiles. Now, Shaheen, everybody knows, is a dual purpose missile. So the suggestion being made was that Pakistan is under so much of pressure that they want to now do nuclear signaling to India, that we have the nuclear weapons. I am happy that Foreign Secretary Misri, Vikram Misri, in his latest meeting with the Parliament External Affairs Committee, he said very clearly that there was no nuclear signaling from the Pakistan side. In any case, people should know this much, that one of the key lessons of the Cold War was that the Americans came out in the 70s with their second offset strategy against the Soviet Union, and that was that the conventional deterrence and the nuclear deterrence are absolutely separate. They have to be built separately. And there is no way, as I said, that the combine of Pakistan and China were deterred. So why should they do any nuclear signaling? Now, as I was talking about the pause, who will lift the pause? That is the point. In my opinion, I have given a lot of thought to this. This pause would be lifted by the Pakistan side. Not now, perhaps between 6 to 12 months from now. A situation would happen that this pause would lift. Why? Because I am saying 6 to 8 months. This is the time that they need to prepare for a hot war. This is the time they need to see the operational gaps which they noticed, which everybody noticed in the 4-day campaign, and they need to fill up. Now, there were a lot of limitations noticed on the Indian side. I will not dwell on that. It is better to talk only about the enemy here. So there are 4 key things that I feel or I think will be a priority area for the Pakistan military. Let's start with the Pakistan Air Force. What we saw is that Pakistan Air Force redefined in that one night the aerial warfare between India and Pakistan. It just changed. With this name that was given, multi-domain operation, what that meant was that all the fighters, they were not doing dogfights. All they were doing is BVR, beyond visual range missiles were used, and they were backed by a digital ecosystem. Now this is something huge, and this is what multi-domain operations are all about. That means all the assets, the satellites, the airborne early warning and control aircraft, the ground assets, and the aircraft, they all were linked by the data link 17. So every aircraft, each aircraft of theirs knew exactly what is going on where. So this was, as I said, a huge thing for the subcontinent. Now here we notice that a huge role has been played by the PLA. Let me just give that out very briefly, though people know, but let's put it together. One is, let's see the aircraft. The frontline the aircraft obviously was the J-10C. The J-10 from the Chinese, and of course JF-17 is the other aircraft, Block 3, that they in any case with help from China are making in Pakistan itself. And the top of the line missile was PL-15. Now news has just come, which is very interesting, that immediately after the Pahalgam massacre, what the Chinese did was their PL-15E, which is the export version, was not given to Pakistan. Instead, what they gave was PL-15 from their inventory, which is the version that they are using with their own aircraft. And there is a big difference in the two. Let me explain in terms of range itself. The export version has a maximum range of 145 kilometers, whereas the original one, PL-15, is 300 kilometers. So that is the one that was sent to Pakistan. So it is fair to assume that the Chinese now will, when the Pakistan military is building itself for a hot war, preparing itself, they will be giving that top line equipment to the Pakistan military. And they get many benefits out of it. The big benefit is that operationally they are seen by the world, the capabilities that the Chinese have. So this is, in my estimation, what they'll do. And the Pakistanis still have not got their complete tranche of J-10s. Obviously that will also be hurried, because in any case the PLA is now giving it a second, it's a second place now, PL-10 for them, because they've already got the 5th generation aircraft, J-20 and J-31. Now J-31 also, which is their original version is J-35, that the Pakistani Air Force has asked for 40 numbers. Obviously they will also be given. One of the missiles which has got underplayed of the PLA is the CM400 AKG. Now this is a very interesting missile. It is an anti-ship missile which can be used from high altitude in an air to ground role, and they claim that they use this missile against S-400 of India. So all this, as far as the aircraft is concerned, the front line and the top line will be given. Now let's see the satellites. As I said, this is a digital ecosystem. In the satellites, we know that the Chinese have today, as part of their Beidou system, some 470 satellites which are only for ISR role. What this means is that the complete visibility of the battle space was available to the Pakistan military and the Air Force, something which was not available to the Indian side. Not only that, Chinese have specialized satellite called Yagon satellites, which are meant for electronic warfare, and as part of electronic warfare they do electronic intelligence and signal intelligence. So this is extremely important. So they were helping them with all this electronic about the conversation which was going on on the Indian side in the Indian Air Force. Chinese satellites were helping there. Okay, now let's see the airborne early warning and control platforms. I have no doubts in my mind that the frontline aircraft in this category of the Chinese, which is the KJ-500, which is built on their Y-9 medium transport aircraft, which provides a extended range electronic warfare. See, everything is about electronic warfare. If you can beat and if you can have supremacy in electronic warfare, you win the war. So this will be given to the Pakistan side. And many people may not be aware that all this, when I say the satellites are part of the PLA's, what they call the aerospace force, which was built up after the April 2024 reforms. And we know that the Pakistan military officers, they have been for the last 4 years part of the PLA Western Theatre Command as well as the Xinjiang Military Division. That means they are embedded there. They know exactly how these operations are to be done, and they've been training in any case as part of the Shaheen exercises. So this is one part, a huge deal as far as the multi-domain operations of the Pakistan Air Force are concerned. The other thing is drones. Now I don't have to go, I mean even the Indian side has conceded that they could bring drones in hundreds and more as a drone swarm also. So they'll be getting the drones from Turkey, and in any case bulk of their drones and loitering munition will come from China. China is a leader in this area. Now the third thing that they would be looking at is building up is a very interesting thing, which is their integrated air and missile defense capabilities. This will be now on the lines of what the Chinese have against Taiwan, which is what they call the counter intervention strategy, or the Americans called A2AD, which is area denial. A2AD is anti-access area denial capabilities, which is creating a wall. Which is precisely what the Pakistani side spoke about, Operation Buriane Mahsoos, which is an unbreakable wall they want to create, because given the elongated geography, although Pakistan Air Force has always given importance to air defense, but now they need to do something more. And here once again I believe the PLA will be giving that top line equipment to them. For example, Pakistanis right now have HQ-9 air and missile defense system, and what they could get from the PLA, the Pakistanis have this system. What they could get from China, the PLA, is the HQ-19 air and missile defense system, which takes care of medium range missile of up to even 2,000 kilometers, and this is comparable to the American THAAD system. Next is guided rocket systems will be given, and once again it is Chinese have an entire series of PHL series of multi-barrel rocket launchers. I am certain that top of the line there also will be given to the Pakistan military. So we are talking of preparing a wall, and this wall has to go up and it has to come down as well. As far as down is concerned, next it needs is the radars. There are specifically two types of radars that the PLA could give to the Pakistan military over the next 6 months to a year. One is what they call the series of Sky Watcher radars. Now this is what is about. This is long distance radars with high accuracy, high intelligence and high mobility. And then there are radars which cover the lower end. The lower end, where you have drones, where you have loitering munition, where you have mini drones, that is covered here. And along with that, I will not be surprised, the Chinese also have this FK400 mobile air defense systems, which is about high powered microwave weapons, takes the war to another level. Microwave weapons are electronic weapons, which is about sweep, which is about finishing the mini drones and the small drones. And in addition to that, when you have all this wall being made, then you need a command post, a state-of-the-art command post, which again the Chinese have, where the entire information from various sensors, from various radars, drones can be integrated and to present a picture in seconds. So this is what I am talking about. If not the top line, the best equipment or what they normally export, better than that, will be shared now with the Pakistan military, and they will have the time to train on it. Next is operation logistics. Absolutely important. And everybody knows that since 2021, Pakistan representatives, extra people are sitting in their embassy in China, whose sole job is to ensure that ammunition, spare parts, everything that is required in a high intensity hot war is available from China. So the point I am making is that today Pakistan has close to 80% of its military hardware is of China. This is likely to go up in the next 6 or 8 months. So this is what I am looking at. And alongside what they will do is, because this whole thing will get compressed, the thing between new normal and, as I said, the hot war. So the Pakistan army will also be doing some rehearsals to see. They have the advantage of internal lines of communication, how fast they can bring their reserves, their strike corps, their holding formations all together against India in 48 hours to 72 hours. So how everything can be brought together. So this is what we are looking at. Now, if all this we are looking at is, so as I said, the pause would likely be broken by the Pakistan side. Now there's one more issue that I want to touch upon. War is a reality, but a war narrative in the form of information war is equally important. And I have no hesitation in saying that in this 4 days campaign, the Pakistan side came much better. They came out much better, and the evidence of that is all the international top papers like New York Times, all such papers, they have written about it, and they've written about the clownery that was going on the Indian side on our televisions. And why they came out better is, there are 3 reasons, the Pakistan side. And these are the reasons that the Indian side should also think about. One was that they were clever enough to realize that information war is as much about misinformation as it is about giving information. You have to give information, and therefore they brought in the number 3 officer of the Pakistan Air Force, Air Marshal Aurangzeb Ahmed, who spoke with the international media, explained to them immediately after the air war what had been accomplished, gave them the digital indicators of all the Indian aircraft, which was where what, and explained the multi-domain operations to them. And it was not surprising that after that briefing, the international media obviously gave out the Pakistani narrative quite happily, because on the Indian side there was a complete blackout. As I said, the Indian side are still not willing to talk about what happened on the night of 6/7, the air battle. Now, the second reason is, this was that opportunity to showcase the Chinese technology, and this is where the international media had a lot of interest to see how the Chinese technology, much touted, was operationally winning against Western technology used by the Indian Air Force. So they had interest in listening to the Pakistani narrative. And the third reason was that there is a myth that India is superior conventionally, Pakistan is inferior conventionally, which of course is a myth. It's not true. I've explained this in so many of my videos. So the focus was more on the Pakistan side. Now on the Indian side, unfortunately, I won't dwell any further, but what happened was, on mainline television channels, was embarrassing, was a national shame, and I dare say that the External Affairs Minister Jai Shankar, he gave a briefing to the foreign diplomats, friendly foreign diplomats in Delhi, and the New York Times next day reported that those diplomats, without wanting to be named, said that he did not give any evidence. So they were not happy about all that he said about Pakistan being a terrorist state. So the point I am making is that if you cannot tell to your own people, you could not give the evidence to the foreign diplomats. Can this all-party delegation do, which is going across the world and trying to explain terrorism, India's stand on terrorism, and saying that Pakistan is a terrorist state, it is a center of terrorism. So all this we need to think about very seriously, because information war is a very important aspect of the campaigns today. Thank you so much.